Hi, you may not recognize my voice. I've been the audio editor for Steve Parker Audiobooks since August 2022. Recently, Steve asked me if I'd like to record a video showing how I edit, and I thought I'd give it a go, though I have virtually no experience recording myself nor talking to an audience, so please forgive my graceless delivery. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's dive right into this, shall we? So the first thing I do is I receive an email from Steve. No, we're not going into that much detail, of course. The first thing I do when all the files are already in the appropriate folder is I clean up. By clean up, I mean dealing with the background hiss and hum, with unwanted distortion, problematic sibilance, or distracting resonance. The program I use for this is RX10 Standard by Isotope. Alright, so this is what the program looks like. This is a file from Steve. It's actually read by Steve. And the first thing I see is, well, there's quite a bit of noise. You can see here. There's some low frequency hum or build up. It's quiet, so you won't hear anything if I play. But if I add effects onto this and I make it louder in post-production, this noise will come up and it will be an inconvenience. So first of all, I'd like to get rid of this low frequency hum, which I'm going to do with this EQ. This is a module chain I made earlier for this purpose. It also adds a mouse D-click and a D-click to get these things done as soon as possible. Right, that's done. And yeah, we can see that there's quite a bit of noise there left. So what I'm going to do is learn the noise profile, so the program knows what is noise and what isn't, and I'm going to run this to make it less noisy. Hopefully this will be the last denoising. If there's still something left, I'll denoise it again. Alright, it did its thing. Just to be safe, I'd denoise it again, because this file's a bit quiet and it will get boosted in post a lot. So for this I'm going to use an adaptive voice denoise, which means it just listens to the audio and decides what's noise and what's not on the go. Alright, let's listen to it and see if it sounds good or if we destroyed something by accident.
She showed me in the doctor's letter that all I wrote down was true. It seems to have made a new man of me. It was the
Okay, let's listen somewhere else.
time to read them, but I shall get the bundle of papers.
Yep, it sounds good. The next thing I do is a phase correction, which basically means that, for example, if over here you can see that this peak goes all the way up here and it doesn't go all the way down, it means that this can be shifted down a bit, so it's not as technically loud. It will sound the same after, but it will be easier to process later. The plugins won't have to run as hard as they would now because of the asymmetrical waveform. So just to show you, this is how it sounds before.
His eyes suddenly seemed to catch something in one of them.
And I can run this. It shifted down, so it's symmetrical now. It's not as loud, but it will sound the same.
His eyes suddenly seemed to catch something in one of them.
This is just basically a... it doesn't affect the audio here. It will affect the way the plugins work, and they won't have to be overworked as much. So I'll do that for the rest of the file and come back. Okay, it's done. And the last thing I'm going to do to this file is normalize, which means that the loudest peak in this case would be -1 decibel. This just makes sure that no peaks are going over after adding some processing, and so it avoids distortion, and make sure the file isn't too quiet. It's as loud as it can be with this peak, because this is the loudest peak, not to get clipped or not to have any other problems. Now I should listen to this file all the way through here, but I'm going to listen to it in the next step, and if I find something that needs fixing, I'll just come back to this program and fix it. The second thing I do is move to a different program called FL Studio 21. This is technically music making software, but I use it mainly for audiobook production. I drag in all of the files into FL and put some effects on them to enhance the sound, tame performances which were too dynamic, and bring the overall loudness up quite a bit. Alright, so I've opened the project for Dracula, which is chapters only 5 to 13 currently. As you can see, there's a lot going on. Anything up here is voice actors, and anything below that is sound effects. So yeah, that's what I'll show you, or give you a glimpse of today. So first of all, we have to drag in the file that we just worked on. Right, and now the first thing I'll do, or I would do if I didn't, if I opened a new project, would be to add effects to this voice, because it needs some EQ, it needs some compression, but I've already added the effects for Steve's voice for the earlier chapters, so now I just have to run this voice through those. I'll show you what those effects are. This is an EQ. It's a dynamic EQ, AI bass. Like, you haven't heard that phrase enough this year. I'll show you how it sounds without and then with.
26th September. I thought never to write in this diary again, but the time has come.
That was without. With the EQ.
26th September. I thought never to write in this diary again, but the time has come. When I got home last night, Mina had supper ready, and when we had supped, she told me of Van Helsing.
It's a bit brighter, not as unclear sounding as it used to. And I also added compression to this. Now, compression makes the loud parts quieter and the quiet parts louder. It makes the performance more even. It makes it more easy to listen to. So yeah, I'll show you first without and then with.
Impotent and in the dark and distrustful, but now
with.
Impotent and in the dark and distrustful, but now that I know,
Without.
Impotent and in the dark and distrustful, but now.
And with.
Impotent and in the dark and distrustful, but now that I know.
It's overall louder, of course, because that's why we use compression, to make things louder, or to allow ourselves to make things louder. But it doesn't clip because compression takes the loud parts and brings them down so that we can make everything louder. And this is what I decided was sufficient for Steve's voice for this project. So now that we have that out of the way, we can edit this file so that it doesn't have too much silences in between phrases, so it doesn't contain any bad takes, any coughing, any mouth noises, any breaths that are too loud. So I'll start off with just deleting this empty space because we don't need that silence. Now I'll listen to this file with, of course, a copy of Dracula open on my second screen to follow along. And I'll cut everything out that I find is unnecessary. Like, this will probably be a little too long. We'll see.
26th September. I thought never to write in this diary.
Okay, it wasn't.
26th September. I thought never to write in this diary again, but the time has come. When I got home last night, Mina had supper ready, and when we had supped, she told me of Van Helsing's visit, and of her having given him the...
No, I cut this out, or at least trim it a bit.
Van Helsing's visit, and of her having given him the 2 diaries copied out, and of how anxious she has been about me. She showed me in the doctor's letter...
I'll make this a little shorter.
...about me. She showed me in the doctor's letter that all I wrote down was true. It seems to have made a new man of me. It was the doubt as to the reality of the whole thing that knocked me over. I felt impotent and in the dark and...
Don't really like this part.
I felt impotent.
Yeah, I think we should cut that out.
I felt impotent.
This breath is also unnecessary. It doesn't add anything.
I felt impotent and in the dark and distrustful, but...
So this is basically what it looks like. I won't do the whole file with you, of course. That would take too long. Now, if I was actually working on this, I'd probably have all the files open at once instead of doing this one by one. And while I edit this, if there's a place that requires some additional sound effects, I'll add a marker, write something here, and that way I can easily go back and add some effects after I'm done with the no effects version of the audiobook. Yeah, that way it just makes things easier. I don't have to listen to the whole thing again. I can just listen to the parts where I decided to add effects. While we're at it, I'll show you that I sometimes don't add effects that I find somewhere on the internet. I'll add my own effects that I make. These 2 effects are made by me. I'll play some bit for you right now. It's from chapter 8.
Seemed sinking into deep green water, and there was a singing in my ears as I have heard there is to drowning men, and then everything seemed passing away from me. My soul seemed to go out from my body and float about the air. I seem to remember that once the West Lighthouse was right under me, and then there was a sort of agonizing feeling.
So I can show you how I made this sound. It started out with a synthesizer. This is what a synthesizer looks like. You have waveforms over here, a filter over here, and some envelopes and LFOs, and also a lot of knobs and effects. This looks scary if you're not used to this. So it sounds like. And I ran it through a reverb, and basically this came out. just drowned in a lot of reverb. So yeah, it's a very fun thing to do, make your own effects. And the last part of the process is rendering. This can take a while, so I usually do something else while it's doing its thing. These are the settings I use. I render a WAV file, 24-bit WAV file at 48 kilohertz. May not know what that is. It's too technical to explain in this video. I just press start and wait a long time. This might take 10-20 minutes per chapter. Yeah, it's very slow because of all the plugins and processing power required to do this. And when it's done, I'll listen to it on my JBL Flip 6, upload, write an email, and go to bed. Subscribe to Steve's channel if you have questions, leave them in the comments. Love you, bye.